Yeah.
Thank you so much to everybody for coming out on a very cold night. It's my pleasure to call to order this meeting of the Town of Poughkeepsie Town Board on January 22nd, 2025. I'll begin with a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to do roll call. I think we're waiting for one more person, but let's get started and we can.
Okay, good evening, Bill Reuter, First Ward.
I'm Barbara Laird, 2nd Ward.
Michael Safone, 4th Ward.
Ryan Sharp, 5th Ward.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Emily Spencer, Attorney to the Town.
Rebecca Edwards, Town Supervisor. Okay, just a couple of quick announcements and then we're going to go into the public hearing. We are having our first food pantry farm stand here at, there she is, hi. We just finished roll call, so we can just add you in before we do anything
Ann
else.
Berger, 3rd Ward.
Wonderful, welcome, okay.
Thank you.
Should bring
So,
enough coffee for everybody.
We are,
No, I hope this meeting doesn't necessitate coffee, but I've got one just in case.
okay, hot drinks for everybody tonight, right?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that thanks to Dutchess Outreach and to Assemblymember Dee Dee Barrett, we are able to start a Dutchess Outreach food pantry farm stand program tomorrow morning at Town Hall. We are still working out with them whether this will be a once-a-month schedule, when it would be possibly twice a month. We're going to see what the need is tomorrow. I want to thank everyone who's volunteered. The truck will be here at 7:30, so some of us are going to be here at 7. We will be having checking people in the foyer and having food distribution here. And we'll try to make sure that everyone gets referrals if we need to help people find further food in addition to what we can offer tomorrow. But we hope this program will grow over a period of time. The other thing I wanted to say is that we have most of our volunteer boards and committees filled now. We are looking, I think, for one more person for the Conservation Advisory Committee, and we need to have several new members of our ethics committee, our ethics board, which reviews the annual submissions from elected officials to make sure there's no conflicts of interest and meets as necessary for any other issue that might come up. So if you know a volunteer who would like to serve on the ethics board, we are taking nominations and we'll try to get the news out there about that. We'll have, I think, a lot of other news coming forward in the next few weeks about the food scraps program and about Love Me Licensing campaign and some other things that are going on. Okay, I believe that the first thing we need to do is have a public hearing, and then we'll move on to the rest of the agenda. So I moved, do you want to be the first person to do you want to do the public hearing?
Sure.
Okay.
Move to suspend rules.
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor? Aye.
Okay, so this is a special use permit application, a public hearing for John T. Abuto Enterprises, LLC, John Abuto, for an unhosted short-term rental at 6 Conifer Court in the town of Poughkeepsie. So we invite comments.
All right, so the public hearing is open for anyone who may want to comment on this application to have a unhosted short-term rental at 6 Conifer Court. Is there anyone in the room or online? Oh, so come right on forward. You can speak at the mic here if you'd like to sit down. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. My name is Don Sawicki. I live at 1 Conifer Court, so I have a direct view of the house in question. For starters, my wife had looked up on Google New York State law for Airbnbs, and it says the host must be present for stays of less than 30 days. Does that not apply to the town if it's a state law?
I think that may not be correct for state law. Both hosted and unhosted are allowed, and the town has different regulations for each. The hosted ones, if there's someone present who lives in the house, don't need to come for the town board for approval. The unhosted ones do. But I don't know of a state law that prevents unhosted rentals. There are some, at least in many communities.
Okay, it also says that only 2 guests are allowed during stays of less than 30 days.
I don't think that's correct. I think it depends on the property.
Okay. The write-up that the property has says there is free street parking. And I just want to make note that cars have been parked in the cul-de-sac at times, which obstructs snow plowing, garbage pickup, and deliveries. Also, where these garbage cans are placed happens to be where, on maps that I've looked at for the area, on each of the two cul-de-sacs, there is a spot at each end for excess snow to be plowed into, which is basically on somebody's property, which it's right where the garbage cans are. These garbage cans are never brought in from the street. They're out there 7 days. The wind topples them over. Any garbage that is in them gets strewn around, and nobody's there to pick them up. Right now, that garbage is under the snow. There was one time where excess garbage was left in bags out alongside the garbage cans. Crows came along and picked it apart and had a nice meal and left stuff strewn all over, and again, nobody's there to clean up. The papers say that there's supposed to be a use permit for this, but gentleman purchased the house in September 8th of '23, and he's been renting it, I would say at least 17 times, because his write-up paper says he's had 17 reviews, and all without a permit.
So I can clarify that that these operated for a long time without town regulation, and we just put in place a process of writing to and setting up a regulatory process for these, so.
Okay, so there was no special use permit required for the past year?
It began to be required last year, and we've begun last fall, I think. I would have to check with the zoning department, but I believe we started last summer and fall to ask people to come in. We got our first application last summer,
Yes.
I think
May,
last summer, right?
Last May.
So before that, they weren't required.
Okay. On the write-up, when you go online to possibly use the house, it mentions that there's an 8-guest maximum, but yet on one of his reviews, it says a very nice large house that worked well for our 15 people. Again, with nobody being there, there's nobody to control anybody coming and going. He also says there's no visitors permitted other than those that are using the house, but we know for a fact visitors do come and go. I assume people are renting the house from out of the area, and they know people in the area that come over and stop over and stay for a meal or do whatever. His use times for quiet times, he has listed for 11 p.m. to 5 a.m., which I believe are outside the town's own noise ordinance. And there was at least one event where he has ping pong tables set up in the garage. And over the summer, when it was hot, and obviously the garage is not air conditioning, the 3 garage doors were left open for ventilation for the people, and they played up through 3 a.m. in the morning. Not that it was all that noisy. Ping pong doesn't make a lot of noise. But still, nobody is there to keep the rules intact.
Well, sir, on their application, they do list a property manager in Fishkill, but there's no phone number for that person, so.
I noticed that
Correct.
as well.
So I would suggest, before we move this forward, we get a phone number for this person
Right.
and
Let-
address some of these
right.
concerns.
Let's finish up with
All right.
your comment and anyone else who wants to speak, and then I think the board
Okay.
should discuss what we want to do, okay? I will say that the garbage issues are zoning issues that we can alert the zoning department to, irrespective of anything else, and let them know that there's a problem with ongoing garbage and lack of garbage collection, and we can work on that right away. You can always call the zoning department and let them know someone's not bringing in their garbage cans, there's a big problem, so I'll address that. I can write to the zoning department tomorrow, so.
The only problem with that would be better to contact the property manager, only because by the time you get it ordered a remedy, they have 30 days to comply, which is not gonna help the neighbors, so.
Right.
But please go ahead and we'll take on
Yep.
your notes.
The only other item is, I spoke to one of our other neighbors this evening about if they could attend. And unfortunately, the daughter was sick and going to the doctor tonight, so they couldn't come. Her only concern was that she has a teenage daughter, and very often the parents have to go out and the daughter is left there to attend to herself. Although they got a dog herd for that purpose also. She's concerned about who's coming and going because on a short-term rental, you got different people potentially every weekend.
Okay,
And just doesn't feel all that safe with the strange cars coming and going and that kind of business.
okay.
All right? That's
Thank
all.
you very much. I appreciate your input. And there's someone
Can I-
else who wanted to speak as well,
Can I
right?
just ask one quick question? Have you met the owner of the house at all?
I waved to him a couple of times.
Okay.
In his he's not there all that often.
Right, right.
I waved to him, but he has never, and he's, called out to me, how you doing?
Okay.
Nice weather, but from a distance,
Sure.
Okay. So just to clarify for the microphone, there's been drive-by waving, but no close contact with the neighbors. Trying to just get everything on the record here, so. Welcome, thanks for being here.
Good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name is Chris Lewis, Lewis. My wife and I and our daughter are at number 5 Conifer Court, which is right next door. Like Don, we strongly object to the approval of a hotel in our neighborhood with strange people coming and going at all hours. I don't know what the permitting rules were. We looked at them very carefully before we bought the house because we did not want to live in a place with an Airbnb. But it is notable, it's been used as that for very frequently over the past year and a half. With a lot of strange people, some of them are quite pleasant, but people we don't know in and out of the neighborhood. I have a daughter who is disabled. We walk the dogs, we have other things going on there. I will echo what was said about the garbage. It is never cleaned up. We have woods that surround us, so when there's food in the garbage, the animals take it and they rip it apart and it's all over the place. We would just urge you to really consider this and to reject this application. There is a housing shortage in New York State. We know that you guys have been attentive to that. Restricting further housing for the purpose of hoteling people, I don't think is a way for our community to go. So I urge you very strongly to reject this application.
Thank you very much. Could I ask one question before you go also?
Certainly.
During the time it has been used for these 17 or more rentals, have you been, as the next door neighbor, noticing noise issues or late night issues or other things like that?
There have been late night issues. I wouldn't say that our house is very set back from theirs, and so, which is part of the attraction to it. So we've had lights and seen people out there late, but we've not had noise issues because our house is not really right next door, so we've not had that
Okay.
particular issue so far.
Thank you.
Now, I've stayed in a number of Airbnbs and they're very strict with noise, and I have a family of 6, and we are quiet and put the garbage where we're supposed to be and no issues. So I get what you're saying though, but if you haven't had police issues or anything like that, you haven't noticed anything that would cause you alarm to call the cops to come over there. So I think we will contact the applicant, find out who their property manager is, get a phone number, and look over their lease agreement, what they have online, okay? So we can see if it conforms to what's supposed to be with our town code.
Let's see if there's anyone else here who wants to speak to this.
Just really quick, with respect, Mrs. Paul, and I don't think that us being compelled to call the police should be the standard
No.
that should
No,
govern.
I hear what you're saying, but if you've had 17 rentals there, I'm not arguing with you, and no issues with police calls or anything. We've had other Airbnbs that have had a closer proximity to their houses, and we've approved that in the past. And if there is a problem, we could always take the permit away, is what I'm saying. That's in our code, so, I'm just asking if there was any issues. They've been renting it for all this time and no one's known about it. We haven't known about
Well,
it.
we've known about it, we just
But again,
tried to
there-
be neighborly.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm just asking, there's been no issues with 17 different rentals that are on their line. So I'm just trying to point out that there hasn't been an issue. I'm not saying there couldn't be an issue. I'm just addressing everything as you're saying it, okay?
Could I suggest that we
yeah.
finish up what the
Yeah.
public wants to say,
Yes.
and then, because it'll be better
Right.
record for the hearing?
I was gonna suggest that we hear all comment, and then also, Emily, it might be helpful, this comes up with each rental, if you as a town, attorney would review the grounds on which the town board can and can't reject an application, which I think can be helpful as well.
And I know
Thank you
Ann
very
Shershon
much.
has her hand up, but I was waiting
Yep.
to see if there was anybody else.
Yep, is there anybody else in the room who would like to speak on this issue in this public hearing? Okay, Ann, welcome. Ann is in Seattle and celebrating being a grandma, so she's not with us tonight.
She's on-
Ann, can you unmute yourself?
Ann?
She probably doesn't even mean to have her hand raised.
She may not mean to have her hand raised. Anyone else who wanted to speak at the part of the public hearing? Oh, look.
Hold on, I did it. My laptop wasn't working, so I'm
Okay.
on my husband's, but.
Okay,
Good, you can hear me now?
Yep.
yes, we can.
Okay, so yeah, no, I just want to send greetings from lovely, warm Seattle, 41 degrees and sunshine, so. You have my sympathy.
That wasn't really
And I want-
necessary.
And I just wanted to speak on Joyce's resignation, our
Okay,
town,
and we're in the middle of the public hearing on the.
Oh, I'm sorry,
No,
sorry, no, I'm bowing out. I thought you were on the
Okay,
regular.
we'll come back in a
Okay,
little
my
bit,
mistake.
okay? All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak on 7 Conifer Court?
Doreen?
Okay, Doreen?
Well,
6.
I will say that I am against,
6.
having the commercial unhosted property rented out on this street. I just don't think these kinds of businesses belong in residential neighborhoods. That they're basically running a business and in a residential neighborhood. And, I'm against this and any of the other commercial unhosted properties who are coming for permits, so. And, just one other thing, if anybody's, well, I'll wait till later. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Doreen. All right, I don't see anyone else. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak? All right, then I move that we, close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, Emily, could you review for us the regulations? So I think that could be helpful before we
Sure.
proceed.
So as was mentioned before, the town board, I think over a year ago now, put in place rules for short-term rentals, saying that they're allowed throughout the town based on acquiring a special use permit from the town board. So many special use permits go to the planning board, but these particular ones come to the town board. So the question isn't whether the town should have these rentals, because that's already been decided. The question is whether this particular location has specific impacts that make it not an appropriate location for a short-term rental. So the criteria for a special use permit are in section 210-152.1 of the zoning code. They're basically effects on the neighborhood: noise, discharge of water, traffic access, parking, circulation, landscaping, etc. And whether this would create a negative impact on the neighborhood that's, an unusually negative impact. So that's the decision before the board. If this board decides to grant the special use permit, the project would still be subject to having that permit revoked if there were compliance issues in the future.
Okay, and we're approving these on an annual basis, right?
Exactly.
And then if there are no complaints or problems, I believe that they can be annually renewed by the zoning administrator. But if we have complaints or issues, then it needs to come back to the town board every year. Okay. I would just add my concern about the lack of a phone number and questions about whether this is a complete application, because I do think there's some information missing. And have some concern about some of the notes here. What would be the best way, in addition to the number, there's a 3-bedroom, right, from the plan? And I wanna check and make sure 10 is an appropriate number to be
It's a
hosted.
4-bedroom.
Oh, I'm missing a bedroom then.
Yeah, I mean, on Airbnb, it's listed as a 4-bedroom.
There's 2 on one floor and 2 on the other.
Oh, I see. Yep,
One's a rec room.
got it. In addition to the usage history.
So you don't need to make it, we don't even have a resolution to make a decision this, well, do we?
Yeah, we do,
this
we
is-
do, but
this
I
is
want,
just
I would
adjourn.
like to
Okay,
adjourn
sorry,
it.
but we can, we can table the resolution and take time, you can have up to
Yep.
2 months to make the decision, so,
Yep.
yeah.
May I just ask a question? And I don't have I don't have the law in front of me here, but, I'm concerned about the comments about parking. So, shouldn't it be required, or is it in the requirement that there's sufficient parking
Yes.
on property?
Yeah, you need to
Okay.
have sufficient parking, so these are questions, if we
So-
have questions we
Right.
wanna bring to the zoning
How many
administrator.
parking, do you remember, or offhand? Okay, I don't wanna put you on the spot. Okay, so we,
Actually fit 5 cars.
so you're saying, I'm sure you're saying that there's 5 cars there plus cars on the street?
Yes.
Okay, I understand, thank you. Okay.
So at this time of year, parking on the street is also an issue in addition to the garbage issues. So I think we have some zoning issues to research here and work with the zoning administrator on. And, I would like to move to table this, until the February 5th meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion about that? I'm open to an amendment of how long we wait before we come back to it. Be happy to go to I think the next meeting will be February 22nd, so that would give us a month to research. Maybe that's more
I would
realistic.
go with the second meeting in February.
Yeah,
Yeah,
February 22nd.
February 22nd. Let's move to adjourn till February 22nd. And that gives a month for more research.
Second?
I think it's February 19th.
Oh, 19th,
February
okay, my math was bad.
That's okay.
February 19th,
And I'll second that.
all right. Okay, so then,
One extra question. Can he continue to rent this out until this is decided?
yes, he can. So we'll have to come back and revisit. But we will take a month to look into the concerns and bring this back by February 19th. If we're able to get the research done and bring it back earlier, we could. Is that, or do we have to
We should
adjourn to a
decide
date,
now.
or?
Let's decide now so that people know when to come back.
Oh, that's a good point,
Just
right?
make it the 19th.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
Make a decision by then.
All right. We will return and revisit this on February 19th at our meeting on the 19th, okay?
I just want to make one comment too. Keep in mind that prior to this, there was no code in place around Airbnb, so people were just operating them. And many of them still do, without any permits. So, this creating the code around the permits was to give the town some oversight on what's operating where and allow us to go in and make sure they have their carbon monoxide detectors, fire, things like that. So, I recognize that like being in a neighborhood next to one probably isn't ideal, but we do know that they're going on without, they're happening without any oversight. So a lot of towns have chosen to adopt some sort of oversight on these rentals, short-term, hosted or unhosted. So, the unhosted is the one you're talking about, hosted is where they live there. I don't even see, the line between the two is so blurred, if you ask me, because you could just say you don't live, you live there, but you rent it all the time. It's kind of, it can get cumbersome, but at least we have some oversight on it and can be revoked if this were to get out of control, let's say. But I am sensitive to the fact that, I don't know what it's like to live next to one. So all your points are taken, but at this point, at least we have some oversight. There's hundreds of people that still haven't come forward to even get the permit. Maybe hundreds is an exaggeration, but dozens of people that are operating them without even coming, they've been notified, like, hey, you need to come in, but many of them have not come in to even get their permit. This gentleman could have done the same. So,
Yeah.
just some clarity around how we got here.
Thank you. And there is some evidence that people are converting them away from B&Bs as the town begins to regulate and are saying we are no longer renting this. And we do have a partnership with Dutchess County through a program called Granicus, which assists in tracking so that we can keep an eye on rentals and see where they're being advertised out there. Okay, I think we were in the middle of voting, right? We got sidetracked again. So, the motion on the table is to, adjourn, table this until, February 19th. There was a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the resolution carries, 6-0. Okay? All right, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let me review the agenda now for the rest of the evening, and then we will open public comment on all items on the agenda. So we are hearing two presentations, first on, from our town auditor from RBT, Shannon Manise, and then some initial recommendations from the Citizens Committee on Housing Affordability. And then we are making some changes in personnel tonight in terms of resignations and people moving to new positions. We are making appointments to the Board of Assessment Review and the Records Management Advisory Board. We're promoting 2 people in the Water Department, following up from last month. We are voting on a disability policy for town employees. We're voting on a handbook amendment for vacation rollover for employees. We discussed those last month. We are proposing a code amendment for short-term rentals, an extension. We're setting dates for public hearing on amending the code on short-term rentals and setting a date for a public hearing on a moratorium extension on large-scale battery energy storage systems, or BESS. We're all voting on contracts for an upgrade to our Munis software and a contract with ESA for our Employee Assistance Program, our EAP. Designated representatives to the Hudson 7, releasing the security for the cleaning services of the Hudson Valley, and voting on supporting the town's application to Dutchess County Transportation Council for a Spack and Kill sidewalk project, appointing a new head of the building department, again, some more personnel changes, adopting amended salary schedule, and then we have some issues from the clerk. I move to suspend the rules for anyone who would like to speak for up to 3 minutes on any item on tonight's agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, then the floor is open for anyone who would like to speak for 3 minutes.
Is there anybody in the room?
Yes, I believe, let's try the room first. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to speak on any item on tonight's agenda?
I know Ann's been
Okay.
waiting with her hand up.
Okay, then we go to Zoom. Ann,
Hi, can you hear me?
we can.
All right. Sorry, I had tech problems earlier, so I missed the very beginning of the meeting, so sorry for the interruption. But I just wanted to comment on Joyce, our town administrative assistant, retiring and leaving us. I mean, she's been wonderful. She kept such a cheery, welcoming office for the town supervisor, and I really enjoyed working with her all these many years, and sorry to see her go. And if I was there, I'd vote against it. So just want to say sorry to see Joyce go. She's done a wonderful job.
Thank you so much, Ann. Okay, I believe Steve Osserleast is next. Welcome.
Hi, yeah, Steve Oshley, to Yale Court. Just a couple comments, actually, on the Citizen Committee on Affordable Housing. You know, some of the recommendations I may not necessarily agree with, but I think it's important, as they pointed out, that any new regulations or such need to balance the landlords and the tenants' rights. Because if make it too onerous for landlords, it's going to defeat the purpose, and no one's going to invest, and there'll be less housing available. On the actually what was just talked about, the short-term rentals, I don't know if this is appropriate on this, but did I understand correct that the short-term rentals, if they don't come forward, they can still just continue to operate without a permit?
No, that's not correct. The unhosted must come in for, we're in the process of citing those who have not come in for a permit.
Okay, so anybody technically, you know, you're trying to get compliance, so you're not going after people, but technically, you know, they need to come in and get the approval before they rent.
Yes, they should.
Continue renting.
I
They
think
should.
maybe the misunderstanding was that while someone's in the process of applying for a permit, we wouldn't give them a citation for operating.
That's right.
Right, and,
Right.
okay, that's,
Right, but we are
that's
reaching out to those who
understandable.
have not responded and have not submitted applications at this point, because it's been half a year and they need to come in and apply and square it away.
Okay, yeah,
All right.
and that's reasonable, thank you.
Thank you very much. Doreen, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Yes, I'd also like to comment on the Citizens Committee. They noted that they were in favor of the town board's actions on the accessory dwelling units, but they also recognize that what they call the town's housing challenges. So I was disappointed that they didn't recommend that the accessory dwelling units not be allowed to be rented out as short-term rentals. Because, you know, anytime you're allowing a short-term rental, you're taking away from the possibility that it can be used as a long-term rental to help solve the housing shortage, so. And the other thing I was happy to see was the inclusionary zoning. I believe it should be a requirement that new actions taken by the board, like zoning, let's say, for multifamily or commercial units, that they should be required to have affordable units. Recently, I was at a Dutchess County IDA meeting, and the person was asking for a pilot or tax exemptions. And basically, they asked, were there any affordable units? And he said no. And they said, why? And they said, well, because it wasn't required and the municipality didn't ask for it. So I think that all of these actions should have some sort of affordable housing component to help the challenges. And then very quickly, number 13, about the short-term rentals, it would have been, I realize it's just set the date for the public hearing, but it would have been more beneficial for the public to follow along if there was a red line copy, because the way it is now, you have to go through and compare word for word the previous with the, so I may file a FOIL request, but to ask for that, but it just would have been easier if there were changes, red lines, so that you could easily tell what the changes were that were going to be made.
I could
Thank
see
you.
if I could get a copy and put it in the summary.
Right, rather than foiling, we can try to see if we can get a red line copy and put it in there as we move toward the public hearing. Try to
Oh,
do
that would be good, thank you.
Yep. I'm also happy to, I don't want to anticipate too much the Citizens Committee report, but the code committee, code revision committee is already looking at inclusive zoning. It's really complicated, but I'm hoping that sometime in the next few months, they'll be able to bring something to the board on that. Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, then I move that we return to regular session.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution carries 6-0. Okay, then we are on to the presentation from Shannon Manise of RBT, our auditor. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Shannon.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to briefly report on the results of the 2023 audited financial statements of the town. The purpose of an audit is to receive an opinion as to whether the information in the financial statements is presented fairly in all material respects. Our audit concluded that the information is being presented fairly, and the town did receive a clean, unmodified opinion, which is the best type of opinion to receive. I would like to highlight just a few key financial items as of December 31st, 2023. The town had approximately $32.9 million in cash and cash equivalents recorded in their books and records. Bonds payable had an outstanding balance of approximately $35.6 million, with annual repayments scheduled until the year 2053. There was a combined fund balance of approximately $33.9 million, which demonstrates a strong financial position. Fixed assets had a net value of approximately $72.2 million. Of that, approximately $3.4 million is classified as construction in progress, and that relates to the various improvements being done throughout the town that were started but not yet completed as of the audit. there was approximately $2.2 million left to spend from the federal ARPA funds. Of those federal monies received and spent, they were reviewed as part of an additional compliance requirement. When over $750,000 is spent, it triggers that compliance procedure. It was determined that the town was in compliance with all federal requirements, allowed activities, and allowed costs associated with these monies. In looking forward, I would like to mention that the town will have to implement a new accounting standard called GASB 101, and it is related to compensated absences. And lastly, I would like to thank Manal, Rebecca, the Finance Committee for their assistance and cooperation during this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can you email me what you just read off?
These are just personal notes,
Oh,
so,
okay.
Right.
I mean, it's
That's
not,
fine.
there's no like formal presentation, so what will happen is the Finance Committee will make a recommendation to the board to accept the audited financial statement, which was reviewed in great detail
Yep.
at their level, and then once that's approved,
You'll
that,
get
that statement
document.
document will go up for public view.
Right.
Perfect.
I don't know if the Finance Committee voted or not to recommend approval of the draft financials, but we're ready to bring them to the next board meeting if the Finance Committee is ready to do that, and the board can approve the draft financials on the 5th of February, because the Finance Committee did meet with you
Yes.
in depth, so, good. Okay?
So Shannon, I did have a question.
Sure.
Being that Manal just kind of took over this at the halfway point,
Yeah.
our prior comptroller, are you saying there were no issues going forward from the previous controller to Manal taking over moving forward?
In regards to issues, what do you mean? I mean, you have transition, so
Right.
you're picking up where somebody else left off, and
I
depending on.
just want to make sure it was clear that there were no monies missing, everything was accounted for, everything was
That's
in a
what the
good.
that's what the opinion is for.
Okay.
So bank reconciliations were completed, you know, our audit procedures dictate certain things that we have to do in order to give that opinion. So if there were issues or we did not have support for balances that were being tested, you would have had a different opinion.
Okay, that's all I was
So-
wanting to know, thank you.
Okay.
But
Anyone
just-
else?
Just for clarity, that's the 2023.
The 2023,
numbers
yes.
that we're talking
Yep.
about here. So
And
we-
2024 is just been completed, so that will now go forward for that audit period.
Right. So, you know, Manal put out an email with the report to the board and asked for input, so we can get the board's input, and then the finance committee can make a decision on recommending. And then, you have the schedule for 2024 ready?
As soon as the books are closed, we can schedule the audit. Usually it happens around April, May-ish, but if records are available and ready earlier to be audited, we can schedule earlier.
The comptroller and I spoke about that today, and she would like to, get started in April, and the assumption is that we'll be on an earlier schedule this year.
Yeah, absolutely, and that would be my expectation. I mean, last year was difficult because of the transition and trying to pick up, and then we also had the joint water had to be recorded in the town's records.
One of the changes to the audit, as I understand it, is that the joint water board is now listed as a separate fund. So we
yep.
can, at the end of each year, keep a clearer, we'll have a clearer record of where,
Yes.
that's a joint project with the city of Poughkeepsie.
And previously, it was just reported as a joint investment in and did not give any details. So
Right.
now it is clear how much the town is putting in towards that particular project.
Is the RBT also recommending that for the Tri-Muni as well, which is also a joint venture?
So it wasn't our recommendation. They went to the GASB, which is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and they're the ones that determined that it should be reported as a fund. So it wasn't any auditor's determination.
I
It was
see.
a standards board that made that determination.
Who took it to the
I
standards
don't know
board?
if it was joint water or the city.
Okay, all right.
I don't have that information.
I know the city's been working to update, so the city
Yes.
administrates the joint water plan and was very far behind on their audits. And Brian Martinez has been working to, I think they've done 4 or 5 years worth of audits in the last year.
Yes.
So it may be as part of that process where they were
That's
catching
where I
up and
think
getting
all of
everything.
this came to light, yes.
Yes, that makes sense. And so then the separate fund was recommended. Okay, great. Any other
Yeah,
questions?
just a final question, Shannon, thank you again for all your help. You're gonna have the same process this year as last year with the portal and the
Absolutely, yep,
invitation,
that
so
portal
that
will
all
still
board
be up.
members
We'll
can
have all
review
of
and
the information available, yes.
announcement when you get your audit program and your audit letter out and all that stuff. Yep. Okay, very
I believe we actually have to appoint RBP before we get started, right? Yes,
But
that'll be our starting point.
right, you have
Yeah.
to send the bill, right?
For last year, yes, we did.
Okay, you did already?
Yes, we just sent it, I believe.
All right.
Great. Anyone else? Thank you very much. And
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you very much. I'll rely on the Finance Committee for a recommendation to the board, and we'll move this forward. If we have your recommendation by a week from today, we can put this on to approve the draft financials on the 5th, on the 5th. It's the next meeting.
It's okay.
All right, okay. Then we are ready for a presentation from the Citizens Committee on Housing Affordability, from the Chair, Trevor Rettle. Welcome.
Good evening. I first want to address Doreen's comments. Doreen, if you're listening, this is just 5 recommendations we're bringing forward to the town board right now. We have, besides this, over 30 recommendations in draft, and I definitely agree with your opinion as far as ADUs. I don't want to see them turn into short-term rentals. And I can't speak to the rest of the committee, but that's where I stand, and we're definitely looking at it as an issue.
The town board also voted about a month ago, I believe, to empower ourselves to set a lower cap on the number of total hosted and unhosted in the town. So I think that's coming back within the next month, and exactly where we should set that cap is a question for us to discuss and figure out.
So the Citizens Committee on Housing Affordability delivered its first 5 recommendations to the town board, which consists of supporting the Nesterly Home Sharing Initiative, support for inclusionary zoning, institutionalizing the Citizens Committee on Housing Affordability, supporting good cause eviction legislation, and a bold first in the nation proposal at the municipal level, taxing institutional investors, hedge funds, private equity in the single-family market. First, the town of Poughkeepsie has a distinct lack of home sharing room rentals, also known as sublets. The Citizens Committee went out, did some market research, and investigated listing quality in person. As we know, there are a lot of college-focused rentals in the Fairview area, but the market for those above college age is extremely limited in the town. Furthermore, we found some great operators offering good products to individuals in this market, while in other cases we found deplorable conditions no one should be living in. As indicated by Patterns for Progress's 2024 report, more individuals are interested in staying in Poughkeepsie today. We believe it's prudent that we have home sharing options available in the market for young professionals and working individuals in general. We support the supervisor's effort to implement Nesterly, as it will increase housing availability without costly new construction. It is a potential income stream for homeowners, and it would strengthen community connections through intergenerational living. We can't think of a better platform to do this, considering all the support a tenant or homeowner gets from a social worker through Nesterly. Second, over the last 8 months, the Citizens Committee on Housing Affordability, through engaging the community with our survey at public events, the Senior Center, we heard loud and clear from residents that they feel recent housing projects do not reflect the incomes of working individuals in the town. This is why we support inclusionary zoning in the town of Poughkeepsie. We cite in our recommendation the city of Peekskill as a great example, because they have a 10% affordability requirement in new projects. They're a small city of 25,000 people, and they've been able to achieve 22% affordability on average in those projects through closely working with developers. Overall, we support inclusionary zoning because it will help meet the needs, requirements, and concerns of existing residents that we heard overwhelmingly through our conversations. Third, the Citizens Committee on Housing Affordability is presenting you 5 recommendations tonight, like I said, but we have 30 drafts in progress that we'd love to continue working on, and that requires a long-term focus and vision for our town. Therefore, we are asking the town board to institutionalize the committee. Tackling the housing crisis will take consistent work with a multi-pronged approach over time in order to be successful. Fourth, committee members have had conversations with tenants in the town of Poughkeepsie who have had their leases not renewed with no reason given. Adequate repairs are not being made in some complexes, and security deposit checks withheld illegally after tenants have left units in perfect condition upon moving out. In the town of Poughkeepsie, good cause eviction legislation were primarily served to protect these tenants so that they could request repairs without the fear of retaliation or unjust eviction. There's many tenants who just want to have certain repairs done, but they fear that the landlord just is going to decide not to renew their lease in a retaliatory move. Furthermore, the committee analyzed rental price trends over the last 5 years. We found that if good cause were in place 5 years ago, the only time it could have capped a landlord from raising rent would have been in 2021. During that year, we saw rental increases as high as 33% in the town of Poughkeepsie. To put that in perspective, imagine your mortgage increasing by 33%. The median mortgage in Dutchess County was $2,200 in 2021, according to a county report. A 33% increase would have been $726 more a month for an average homeowner, if you put in that perspective. Depending on your situation, that much of an increase could be a serious financial burden impacting housing security. So in effect, we believe good cause legislation could help landlords plan long-term, and instead of inflation-related increases, you can price in another inflationary event in the future, giving everyone more stability overall, right? The United States experiences inflationary events every 10, 20 years and in different formats, right? Whether it's an energy crisis and so forth. To give a personal story, my late grandfather owned real estate in the town and city of Poughkeepsie. He was the type of landlord who would be prompt, professional, and caring to personally address any of his tenants' complaints, concerns, or issues. Over the years, former tenants have expressed how much they miss him because now when they need something fixed in their apartment, they don't get a prompt response, if any, and they knew my grandfather would not raise their rent 30% overnight. Instead, these tenants are now simply numbers to a big corporation, a foreign corporation that purchased some of his property after he passed. So overall, our committee would like to see the town of Poughkeepsie join the growing number of communities in the Hudson Valley that have adopted good cause eviction legislation, including the city of Poughkeepsie, Newburgh, Beacon, Kingston, Nyack, New Paltz, and most recently Fishkill on a bipartisan basis. Fifth and lastly, 15 years ago, the housing market crash presented a unique opportunity for private equity to carve up distressed single-family housing, and by extension, play a key part in eroding the American dream. An American dream where you could live and raise your family in the town you grew up in. Our town is not the same today as it was 15 years ago. It is not the same today as it was yesterday. The subtle creep of foreign investment by private equity has had a rapid and profound effect on certain areas of our nation, including the Hudson Valley, notably Kingston in the Hudson Valley. Recent advancements in AI have led to increased investment. Consequently, I don't want to live where a town could be for sale for the highest bidder with no regard for the existing community. A handshake and conversation over a cup of coffee used to be the norm for getting a job or inquiring about a house. The most innovative ideas can come from anywhere and anyone. It doesn't discriminate based on the size of your wallet. Case in point, when I worked in real estate for my great uncle during my college years, I was showing retail space to an aspiring business owner. The catch was that she was a horrible pick on paper because of a bad credit score due to a mistake in life. However, the person in front of me, I knew, was very passionate about her goal and what she wanted to do. So I went to bat for her and secured a deal for a landlord under special conditions to lease the space. Today, 7 years later, she's still in business with the same passion she had in front of me 7 years ago. This success story is only possible because of small landlord and community ownership. In the private equity world, she would have never had a chance. The Citizens Committee on Housing Affordability hopes that the town will consider our recommendation to tackle private equity in the single-family market to protect housing accessibility for residents. We all hold Poughkeepsie near and dear to our hearts. We want Poughkeepsie to be able to build exciting new technology that changes the world. This used to be our story with IBM. And I know we have the grit and resources to do so again, but if we want to make it here, we need to be able to live here. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay. I'd like to just do a little process note here for a second. I'd like to do a little bit of questions and answers, and then I'd like to refer these make a suggestion for how we might refer these, particularly to the workshop meeting in February for further discussion, and in a couple of cases, refer them to legal or to the code committee, which is already working on one of them or whatever, so we can kind of find a way to route each of them. I'm glad you didn't bring all 35 on one night. We'll just do the first 5, and then we'll see what else is coming down the pipe.
I'd also like to note we have a good cause eviction expert here with us. So if anyone has any specific questions about good cause eviction, I can invite Daniel up here.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay? Any questions, initial questions the board wants to ask, board members?
We're gonna bring this up to a workshop, right? to go
Yes,
through?
well, what I was gonna suggest is that, Nestorly already made a presentation, we've done the research, and we think that they are sole source, because we can't find anyone else who's really doing what they do. And we set aside ARPA funds for that, so we might go ahead and bring that up, bring the contract back for approval. The institutionalization of the committee and good cause eviction, I was gonna suggest that those two go to a workshop meeting in February for further conversation. The inclusionary zoning, the code revision committee is already working on that. The thing about inclusionary zoning is that it has to be monitored, and municipalities usually work with a nonprofit, Hudson River Housing or something like that, to oversee. And so they're working out they're looking at how other municipalities have done that, what's worked. So I think, they will be ready to bring something to the board, but it may take a couple more months. And then taxing, I was really struck by the committee's statement that hedge funds, private equity own something like 2 or 3% of single-family homes in the United States now, and they're projected to own something like 30% in 20 years, and that's an issue, but that's
10 years.
10 years?
10 years.
That's a really complicated set of issues that I think that I want more legal background on, because I think we need to understand it better before we move forward.
Yeah.
But it's, I know I've heard a range of politicians across the political spectrum speak about their concern about hedge fund ownership of single-family homes and this is a rising problem, and flipping them for rentals, and then a whole chunk of the housing stock gets turned over to rentals rather than for home ownership. So
Right.
I think that's a pretty complicated issue that I want to talk about further, and maybe see if the legal department can help us think more about that and what we should do.
I would say the greatest example is Atlanta. I believe about 25% of single-family homes in the Atlanta area are owned by private equity investors. And last year, 40% of all purchases of single-family homes were done by private equity investors. And when you look at neighborhoods in Atlanta, you have some neighborhoods that, 10% is owned by private equity, but then disadvantaged areas, 70% is owned by private equity. And then up here in the Hudson Valley, we have Kingston, which is another example, not quite as bad as Atlanta, but it's troubling to see here.
And Trevor, in your research about the private equity firms taking over housing, did that really start in 2008 when the foreclosures just started running rampant in that recession?
No, but it sped up, right? It was like, it started something from there, the 2008 recession. And then recently, advancements in AI that drove down property management costs, reducing labor, making it easier to manage single-family homes from afar.
How does AI do that?
Well, first of all, it's reducing labor, Private equity, they take single-family homes and the components in them, sinks, fridges, everything, they build everything like, almost like Lego blocks. I have to say, if someone needs a sink replaced, they sometimes don't even bother repairing, I'm sorry, need a sink repair, they don't even bother repairing the sink, they'll just put a new sink in. It's very complex and they have everything down to a fine science. But I'm happy to send over
Right.
any information.
I think you should send us lots of links about that, because I think that's something we
Right.
need to learn a lot more about.
Okay.
So the other, I'm sorry, you okay?
Yeah, yep.
The other component with AI is the corporate purchasing.
Correct.
Right, so they get on Zillow or whatever it is, and they're gonna put their metrics in,
Uh-huh.
and then just pound away.
Right.
And, so your statements on that are impactful to me, and I like the tariff idea,
Uh-huh.
or the tax idea, whatever you call it, because, you know, there may be some enforcement thing, and that along with foreign investment as well.
Right,
Yeah.
right, I
So
mean,
to come in and start purchasing blocks of buildings.
right.
That's detrimental to the community, so I like that approach. And you clarified, Supervisor, this, you know, Nesterly, this matchmaking thing, that's gonna be paid for by the town of Poughkeepsie with the ARPA funds,
Right.
which is very big help. Seniors, a lot of people are struggling, and that's one of the things that we could really do to help them.
Right.
A room or an adjoining apartment. So your other, good cause evictions, I'll just run through a couple things. You know, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, New York State I do a lot of eviction, you know, mediations, and New York State has a lot of guarantees for tenants. So I'm sensitive to the fact, I mean, I do work for Public Defender's, Office on tenants, and I appreciate that. However, there has to be a balance as well. So, you know, the landlords, some of the things, COVID, you know, has come into play as well, and a lot of things were mandatory and recouped. But your story about your tenant hits home, because I'm always in trouble with my accountant. I have rentals out of town, okay? And I don't charge market rents, okay? And my accountant says, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble because you don't do this, and the IRS is gonna come and disallow everything. Well, I won't do it because I'm a small-time person. Those people stuck with me with COVID. They can't afford it, and I'm gonna charge them less because I can do it. Right, so that's the good thing about being a small-time landlord. So that kind of hit home as well. So that's about it. We'll take a look at some of those things, and we'll work with you on that in the workshop. But thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
I had a couple of quick more questions, if you can. First of all, I believe good cause eviction would be a local law, and I'm asking Emily just to make sure. I think we would need to set a public hearing on that law, hold a public hearing, and vote to adopt that. So we would have an opportunity there to set a local, we could discuss it in February, then maybe set a public hearing date before adopting the law and hear from people's experiences. Is that am I right about the process for that? It would be a local law?
Yeah, so there's a state law that towns can opt into, and you would do that by local law, and you can customize it to the town. Like, you can set who are the smaller landlords that are not subject to the regulations and things like that.
Right, so you can say landlords who have 8 or fewer units are exempt, or, you know, we can set different properties manufactured after a certain date, you know, opened after a certain date can be exempt and things of that sort. Okay, I just wanted to check on the process, so that would give us multiple opportunities for further discussion.
But we would need to have the broad scope of what the board wants in order to write the local law.
Exactly,
And then
so,
get
right.
the comments.
I still think we should start with a discussion in the workshop meeting in February. The other question, when you talk about institutionalizing the CAC, I mean, institutionalizing the housing committee, I was thinking about the model of the CAC. I'm interested in sort of maybe you could go back to the committee and ask them sort of what you think we should do in terms of annual appointments. We have some committees that are sort of one person per ward. We have some that are anybody who wants to join, right? What's been great about this committee is a lot of people are interested, and so there's been a big group, but there's been a lot of coming and going too. So I want to try to balance openness to a broad array of people getting involved And, you know, if controversial proposals come up, clarification about how, you know, how you just handle those and, you know, with coming and going,
Right.
how we would handle that.
Yeah, I feel we started as a certain group of folks in a room, and as we've been going on, it's become a much stronger group, and I feel like we have our core
That's great.
members now.
Right. Well, there is also the possibility that a committee can invite anybody from the public to show up, so that you have a core of 8 members or 6 members or 12 members or whatever you think is a good number. But then you have, anybody else is welcome to come and participate, and that might be a model as well. We were just, working on, the proposal for a citizens committee on tax and finance, and, looking at different models for how kinds of citizens committees operate. And there's some towns that have allowed everybody who wants to be on a committee, and then they can't get a quorum. So I'm sensitive to these questions about how we, you know, how we set up committees, so we can think more about that. Anybody else?
I want to thank you for a great presentation. Just wanted to know a little bit more about Patterns for Progress and the collaboration.
Sure, the CEO, Adam Smith, came to one of our meetings, I believe it was September, and he gave an excellent presentation, hour and a half long, and he talked the whole way. But if anyone has a chance to go to any Pattern event, I highly recommend it. It's always just tons and tons of very useful information. They do an excellent job with all their research.
Great. Thank you again very much.
I just have a quick,
Oh, yeah.
so, you know, I'm thinking about this Nesterly thing, you know, and on the heels of the short-term rental discussion, you know, how thrilled people are gonna be when someone moves in to the little granny's house next door and lives there. So I'm thinking that people might think the same thing, you know, like, you know.
Well, yeah, it's a good question because, you know, with the college rentals right now, I think they mainly use a site called Roomster. And what I really like about Nesterly is that there's a social worker involved, and they're doing a lot of work to find the right match and make sure it's a good situation. I think that's so important when you're renting out a room in your
Yeah,
home.
this owner obviously found a niche. I mean,
Right.
this woman, Noelle, who created it. But I just am thinking about like the first time someone comes to the meeting and says, oh, well, there's 2 young men that moved in with, you know, Agatha down the road. What the hell's going on now? So I'm just trying to be a little preemptive because, you know, where's Nesterly started already? In big cities, you know, or cities, you know, and the town is not a city. So we have to think about, you know, we are comparing apples to oranges here, you know. It goes along with the good faith eviction too, or the good cause eviction, you know. These are big cities that have adopted all of this, you know, Beacon, New Paltz, Poughkeepsie, where else? Fishkill, you said bipartisan. Good cause eviction, right. So I just don't want it to get blurred. We're not a city. We're different, we're laid out differently. We don't have some of the problems that some of the cities have, you know. So I just wanna, you know, be cautious as we move into these things that we are not. And it's not directed at you, Trevor, it's directed at, you know, just the fact is, some of these things might not fit us because we're a town. So just things to consider.
Okay.
All right. We'll look forward to figuring out a way to put each one of these on the agenda over the next month or 2.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you
Very good, thank you.
very much. All right, very exciting recommendations. Okay, I believe we're moving on to,
Number 4.
number 4. I don't want to do this one, but we have to. I believe you're next.
This is horrible. I don't want to do resolution number 4. Here we go. Whereas Joyce Longy has served the town of Poughkeepsie in a role as assistant to the supervisor for 8 years with skill, tact, patience, and grace. And whereas Joyce's oversight of the town's Hometown Heroes program has brought recognition to the town of Poughkeepsie military veterans, helping their families and our community express our pride and appreciation for their service to the nation. And whereas Joyce has submitted her letter of resignation effective end of workday on January 30th, the Town of Poughkeepsie Board wishes to formally acknowledge and express its gratitude for Joyce's many years of outstanding service to the town and its residents. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town of Poughkeepsie Board as follows. 1, the Town of Poughkeepsie Board hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Joyce Longy effective January 30th. 2, the board extends our heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to Joyce for her service to the town of Poughkeepsie and our very best wishes for a wonderful retirement. 3, the resignation letter of Joyce attached hereto is Exhibit A is hereby made a part of this resolution, and for the resolution shall take effect immediately. So moved.
Second.
Okay, I just want to say that it's been an honor to work with Joyce for the last, it'll just be 13 months when she leaves. She has taught me a tremendous amount and is always gracious and patient. And the range of things she knows and the range of people she knows is really extraordinary. She's planned retirement for some time. I was hoping we had a little longer before that would happen, but I really wish her the very best. I would like to pass a copy of the resolution to the board members so we can all sign it, and I'd like to give her a signed copy with everyone's signatures, and we'll pass that around. And echo what Ann said earlier about her being just a really, really amazing person who's kind of a front door to town hall. Many, many people, along with the clerk's office. Joyce is another person whom people meet when they come into town hall. And I wish her every good adventure and every good experience in a much-deserved retirement.
If we don't sign, will she stay?
I already asked, begged even, but no, she and Pete are gonna be headed to South Carolina, and, they've got a house there they've had for a while, and it's time. And I told her, in this weather in January, I can't argue against anybody moving to South Carolina, it's hopeless, right? Like, how are you gonna argue with that? I asked her to please send us pictures of her walking on the beach and, you know, the palmettos and whatever, so. Anybody else? Are you ready? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the resolution carries 6-0. Okay, resolution number 5.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with regret the resignation of Michelle Morano as traffic clerk with the town of Poughkeepsie Police Department effective January 27th, 2025. So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. And the resolution carries 6-0. And then that takes.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry, I was wondering.
I read it and
I did Barb. I think Barb seconded. Oh,
Okay, thank you.
maybe Bill seconded.
No,
Bill
I
seconded.
didn't second it, but
Barb
I'll
did.
second it if you want me to second it.
Barb?
Barb did. I sure.
Barb,
seconded,
okay,
okay.
that's great. It carries us directly into the very happy resolution number 6.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby provisionally appoint Michelle Morano to the position of full-time evidence technician under the provisions of Civil Service Law at grade 6, step 1, at the salary of $25.5830 per hour, effective January 27, 2025, which appointment shall be subject to probationary period as described by the rules for the classified civil service of Dutchess County, in effect as of the date of this resolution. And be it further resolved, the supervisor is authorized to execute and file all documentation required by the Dutchess County Department of Human Resources in connection with this appointment. So moved.
Second. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution carries 6-0.
Good for Michelle. I'm glad to hear.
Yay, yes.
Resolution 7, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby provisionally appoint Madeleine Ramo to the position of clerk, traffic division under the provisions of civil service law at the grade 4, step 1, at the salary of $21.28 per hour, effective January 27, 25, which appointment shall be subject to a probationary period as described by the rules for the classified civil service of Dutchess County in effect as of the date of this resolution. The supervisor is authorized to execute and file all documentation required by the Dutchess County Department of Human Resources in connection with this appointment. So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Welcome, Madeline. And congratulations as Michelle moves up and Madeline's able to take this position. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution carries 6-0. Okay, resolution number 8. Be it resolved that the town board hereby appoints Emily Watson for a term expiring on September 30th, 2029 to the Board of Assessment Review. So moved.
Second.
Okay, this fills out our Board of Assessment Review. It's a difficult place to get people to serve because it all takes place the day after Memorial Day, but we now have a full Board of Assessment Review for 2025. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the resolution carries 6-0. Thanks to Emily for being willing to serve.
Okay, Resolution 9, be resolved, Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint to the Records Management Advisory Board Colleen Keith for a 3-year term expiring on December 31st, 2027. So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? This is a reappointment, right? Okay, all,
Reappointment, yes.
yes. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the resolution carries 6-0.
Resolution 10, be it resolved, Town Board does hereby provisionally promote Michael Ruger and Brandon Lakin to the positions of Water Maintenance Supervisor with Town of Poughkeepsie Water Department effective January 1st, 2025, at the yearly salary of $83,000 per year, which is $39.90 per hour. Such promotion being subject to a probationary period, as described by the rules of classified civil service of Dutchess County, and the town supervisor is authorized to execute and file all documentation required by Dutchess County Department of HR in connection with this appointment. So moved.
Second. Okay, this follows up on, we actually last month voted on their positions and on their salaries. This is the additional paperwork stating the date of which this was ineffective and the rest to make sure that we're good with the county, okay? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution carries 6-0.
Be it resolved that the town board does hereby authorize the supervisor to execute a short-term disability plan contract with Mutual of Omaha at a monthly amount of $1,813.86 for a yearly total of $21,766.32 for a rate guaranteed term of 2 years. And be it further resolved that the expense for this contract will be paid from the optical disability budget line in each relevant department under budget code 0822. The budgeted funds in these lines for 2025 are sufficient to meet the expense. And be that further resolved, the town board finds that this is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
Okay, this is the short-term disability plan that we reviewed at the last meeting and discussed and are bringing now for a vote. Any discussion?
Yeah. Well, you have to, somebody has to second it first now.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, I didn't hear. Though I believe this is a good thing for our employees, I do not think the taxpayers should be funding this, and it shouldn't be something we're offering unless we're having a retention issue with employees. It still is though it's a minimal amount of money, based on our overall budget. I just think this should have been something contractually for retention purposes if we were having issues and we're not having it. Though I would like to offer this to our employees, I just feel they have other avenues to get this in private. If they have a union, they could get it through their union, and I think that's the way we should go. We don't have a retention problem here. It's not something we should be getting into. That we're paying for is once you give something, it's kind of hard to take it back, and that's my opinion on it.
I'll just say that every town around us that we've checked with, at least every large town does provide this. We could put retention on the next department heads meeting for the discussion of whether that's an issue or not. I do think we have retention issues. I wouldn't pretend that this one thing is going to solve all of those. Because, there are people who go elsewhere for a lot of other reasons. But I think this is a minimum baseline that we owe our employees, that they have this possibility of security. This covers pregnancy, and it puts a floor and gives some peace of mind to folks if in case of issues which come up. So I'm in favor of doing this. Anyone else want to speak?
Well, doesn't it, maybe not, two things, maybe not so much retention as just gathering more people who are interested in a job that has that one more little benefit, that one more little perk. Because sometimes we put out positions and very few people reply unless it's a civil service thing. The second piece is that I thought it was also providing the town HR, human resources, with more stability, because people wouldn't just say, oh, I can't do this, I have to leave my job, or I can't handle this. I thought it gave us more, as I remember the discussion through Mutual of Omaha, more stability that we could plan when somebody had an accident or a pregnancy.
We can get into positions where someone suddenly needs, major surgery or has another health crisis, and that's, it is good to have that level of peace of mind. It's helpful for the town as well as for the employee to know that if someone has medical issues that they have to address for a while, that they have this security.
Right, and this was excluding the PBA.
It does exclude the PA because the risks there are different and the coverage is different. That's part of the PBA contract, is something different, so but this covers everyone else.
And I agree in the sense that it's a minor amount with a very big benefit to employees. But, you know, I agree with Mike in some way that, you know, it's too late for the contract year, but, you know, we can do that for the next year to try to promote when we do contract negotiations. This is an additional thing that we have. It's a great thing in the town. And it will help retain employees, and it will really help in those short-term disability cases. So I think it's an overall good benefit at a very low cost. So, and this is an annual, right?
That's annual, and that rate is guaranteed for 2 years.
2-year rate, but you pay it every year.
Okay.
It's the monthly amount for the town is $1,813.86, and that rate is guaranteed for the next 2 years.
Well, we can use it as a negotiating tool next time we have a contract and say, we added this, you know, and it will help us. So
Okay.
I would vote for it, so.
Okay, and this was added into the CSEA contract that we approved, so this is extending that to other employees as well.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so the vote is 5 to 1. All right, resolution 12. Think it was, who were we at?
I just read this.
Okay, so I
you're-
think, Mike,
Mike
you're
is
on to 12.
Be resolved, the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby amend Town of Poughkeepsie Employee Handbook Section 802 relating to vacation rollover, and said revisions are attached here to Exhibit A. And be it further resolved, the full version of the employee handbook can be found in the town clerk's office, so moved.
Second, okay. Discussion? I think we spoke at the last meeting about this being until the next June 30th, that they could be rolled over for 6 months. We then went back and realized that in the CSEA contract, we said that they could be rolled over for any point in the following year. Emma finds that to be easier and definitely would like to have consistency among all employees. So what this says is they may be carried over into the following year. They must be, with department head approval, they can be rolled over and they must be used within the next calendar year. So if someone's expecting a grandchild and wants to bank an extra week of vacation for the following year, or for whatever reason, they're able to do that. And we don't have to approve that on a case-by-case basis. They can work it out with the HR department. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the resolution carries 6-0.
All right, so resolution 13, which is a town code amendment. The town board finds that it is in the best interest of the town of Poughkeepsie to amend the town code, chapter 161A, short-term rentals, and chapter 210, zoning, to revise and clarify the regulations regarding short-term rentals in part as they relate to recent changes in the regulation of accessory dwelling units, ADUs. The town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby set the 5th day of March 2025 at 7 p.m. at the town hall as the time, date, and place of a public hearing at which all parties in interest and citizens may be heard as to whether or not the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie should adopt the proposed local law to amend chapter 161A and to amend chapter 210 of the code entitled zoning. The town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby waive the verbatim reading of the proposed local law and does hereby direct the town clerk to spread the proposed local law across the record as if it had been read loud. Pursuant to the provisions of SECRA, the town board determines that the adoption of the proposed local law is a type 1 action and determines that the town board is the only involved agency, and therefore designates itself lead agency for the environmental review of the proposed local law. The town board accepts the attached full environmental assessment form, part 1, and the town board is hereby directed to post a notice of public hearing in the town's official newspaper, the Poughkeepsie Journal. The town clerk is hereby directed to refer a copy of this resolution, the annexed proposed local law, and the notice of public hearing not less than 10 days prior to the public hearing. The aforementioned was mentioned prior, so moved.
Second.
Okay, so there's some clarifications here to the code that we would have a public hearing on. Any discussion?
Yeah, wish we get plenty of time to read it, but we don't have a red line.
Yeah.
So I think we got it, but we have plenty of time to go through what the actual changes are. Is that
Yeah,
what we're
I'll try and get the red line and put it up in the summary, which I usually do the next day, but
All right,
I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow, so by Monday it should be up.
all right.
If we, yeah, as we
I'll
move
put it
towards.
up. I'll have my
Yeah,
girls.
we have a month.
That'd be great, and yeah, no hurry, but as we move toward the public hearing, if we could get a red line, that would be super
Yeah,
helpful.
fine.
Thank you very much,
Very good,
really
thank you.
appreciate that. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I
All
didn't hear
right.
the second, I'm sorry.
I think I seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think maybe 2 or 3 people seconded, but I'll claim credit, okay?
Okay, good.
All right, thanks. Okay, then the resolution passes 6-0. Okay, this is another public hearing. This one I should probably do the details. So whereas in February 2024, the town board adopted a moratorium on the development of large-scale battery energy storage system installations, known as BESS, finding that the town code does not adequately regulate such facilities and they have the potential to create risks to health and safety and adverse environmental impacts, and that we need to better understand those impacts. And whereas the initial moratorium lasted 6 months and was extended for an additional 6 months and will soon expire, and whereas since the initial moratorium was enacted, the town has taken multiple steps to gather information and evaluate options, including but not limited to consulting with the town's Climate Smart Task Force and Fire Advisory Committee, reaching out to community organizations, meeting with firefighting experts from the Energy Safety Response Group, consulting with other town supervisors, and attending a county planning workshop on BESS and zoning codes. And whereas additional research is planned in coming months, including attending an upcoming BESS workshop at the New York Association of Towns meeting, reaching out to a new fire chief in the Arlington district, and hosting a joint meeting with town and fire district representatives. And whereas to enable the town board to continue its analysis of potential impacts and determination, it is necessary to preserve the status quo as to the approval and development of BESS systems. And whereas we determined that it is in the best interest of the citizens and property owners of the town to continue a temporary moratorium on the acceptance and processing of applications for BESS systems and the issuance of building permits, or other things related to that. And whereas we determined that the proposed action is a type 2 action not subject to environmental review. And be it resolved that the recitations above set forth are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted wherein. And therefore, we do set the date of 19th of the February at 7 p.m. at Town Hall as the time, date, and place of a public hearing at which all parties in interest and citizens may be heard as to whether or not the town board should adopt the proposed local law annexed hereto, continuing a temporary townwide moratorium as described therein for a period of 6 months, subject to extension by this town board. And whereas we waive the verbatim reading of said proposed law and hereby direct the town clerk to spread the proposed local law across the record as if it had been read aloud, and be it further resolved that we direct the town clerk to refer a copy of this resolution, the annexed proposed local law, and the notice of public hearing to the municipal clerk of each abutting municipality not less than 10 days prior to said public hearing, and to refer a copy of this resolution, the annexed proposed law, and other materials to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development for advisory review, and distribute a copy to the town planning board for its review and recommendation. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed, we direct you a lot in one of these, right?
I am
We
just
give you a lot of
following
directions. The town clerk is hereby directed to post a notice of public hearing in the town's official newspaper, the Poughkeepsie Journal, and on the bulletin board maintained by the clerk, not less than 10 days prior to said public hearing. So moved. Second. Okay, sorry I had to break things up there and make sure everybody was still
That's
awake.
okay.
Okay, all right, we are proposing to continue this moratorium and do continued exploration. Any discussion with that? Any comments?
So we're gonna have a meeting on the 19th to get the public's input to continue it for 6 months.
That's right, on whether or not to commit,
Continue
right,
moratorium,
on whether we
6
should
months,
continue it or not. So that's basically, we're just setting the
Yeah,
public
and
hearing.
I agree, obviously, and just some of the emails that went around, you know, that what happened at the Moss Creek facility, some of the things that were said by some of the public officials, very impactful. So we're in the right direction, we're on the right path. We have to get the emergency planning down, we really do. We have to get the commitment from the company, because the fire, in that case, did spread, and they said it's not gonna spread, and so these are some of the things. It's kind of new technology where, you know, the regulations, et cetera, haven't caught up yet. So we need really to work through that. So I would love to have an emergency plan signed off by the county. And then move this thing forward.
One of
Past
the,
that point.
that's great. One of the things we're hearing from the fire departments is that they all, in a situation like this, are gonna need mutual aid, and they want a broader conversation. So I know there are other town supervisors who are hearing about this and would like to hold a joint meeting, so we're gonna try to hold a fairly big meeting that includes fire district officials, zoning board people who would like to come, planning folks, and, town officials from multiple, municipalities, to have a further conversation about it, among other things we're doing, okay?
Can I just note that, we put the hearing on the 19th, the planning board won't meet until February 20th, so we
I was
probably.
trying to figure that out in my
Yeah.
head, right? Because,
Mike Welty and I went, this is on purpose, because we thought it was best for the town board to be able to hear from the public, and then we could vote at the following meeting,
Okay.
rather than hold off until March to have the hearing.
Okay.
So that was the thought process
Good,
there.
so we'll have the public hearing on the 19th. We'll then vote at the next meeting after also hearing from the planning board.
Great.
okay,
Okay.
gotcha.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The resolution carries 6-0.
Okay, resolution 15, whereas the town has determined that the financial management software available through Tyler Technology best meets the town's needs, it's the most efficient for the town to continue with a system that's already in use, and that the software subscription is a professional service not being subject to bidding requirements. Therefore, be it resolved, the town board, town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby authorize the supervisor and her designee to sign an agreement with Tyler Technologies for software relating to all accounting services, including utility billing services, human resources, payroll, payment processing, and work order processing in substantially the form annexed. And be it further resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie finds that this is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
Okay, Barb seconded. Okay, I just want to thank, first of all, the comptroller, Manal Patel, and I want to thank Emily Svensson, town attorney, who've both done some research into this, both into what other towns are using for software. This is, Tyler Technologies is Munis, it's the Munis software. It seems like it's pretty much, somebody said democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others. Munis is the worst form of municipal software except for the other options. So it seems to be the one that most towns are using and are finding most helpful. Emily also did research into software, and this is on Sourcewell. But we did try to look at the pricing and the discount they're giving us to make sure we're getting a fair price.
So is this like a renewal?
It's an upgrade.
Upgrade.
It's essentially upgrading.
Oh, the professional, oh no, to the.
It upgrades our whole Munis system. It moves many of our Munis functions to the cloud, so we no longer have to maintain servers at Town Hall, which is both an expense and a risk, and also takes up, according to Tim Millard, about 10 hours a week of his time. So all that stuff goes to the cloud. And it also upgrades our utility billing unit, which is getting ready to expire. Munis won't, so basically no one uses that water billing unit anymore, and they're gonna stop supporting it at the end of this year. So part of this is ongoing cost. We are paying more, but I think there will be some savings elsewhere, and there's certainly gonna be savings in staff time as we get, I think, better support and better software here.
Hopefully the upgrade
this is a struggle.
will make it a better program.
I think it will help with cybersecurity because a lot of things will be on the cloud, and I think it will also help with just general usability and support.
It would be nice at some point to bid it, but we are kind of stuck with this group of people here, so.
That was the conversation we had with the comptroller, with legal, with everybody about, should we try to put this out to bid? Should we look for different software? And it seems like upgrading. And we did have presentations from different water billing companies. I want to thank Tom Colgan for doing a lot of work on that too, on looking at options. And this is gonna really improve water billing. Over time, this is gonna enable us to allow people to auto pay their water bill. We don't have to mail them a bill at all. They can opt, if they so choose, to simply automatically get an email that says, 5 days from now, $30 is gonna be withdrawn from your bank account. And that will save us a lot in terms of postage and,
You're only gonna charge me
Hey,
30, you can
I
put me
think we
on that.
paid a lot of money when we
well,
first
it
got
depends
it.
on what,
Save on postage.
I got
maybe a
charged
little more will be
$8
taken out, but yeah.
But
But that's gonna be a big improvement.
Yeah, save on postage too.
It'll save on postage, it'll save on paper, it'll save on staff time, right? On
Yeah.
both billing and receiving.
But the other thing you said is, I think is good, so Tim, from when it migrates, there's a security aspect of it and the maintenance aspect of it, they're gonna maintain it.
Yes, and we
So
will
the
need
system
fewer,
goes
right?
down, they're gonna,
Right.
it's kind of
Right.
their responsibility.
That's right.
To bring it.
And if I understand correctly, and Tim is not here, I could check, we aren't actually, gonna be putting away any of our servers at Town Hall, but this prevents us from having to buy a bunch of new servers that we were gonna end up having to buy. So putting things in the cloud is both more secure and it's gonna save us money elsewhere. So, okay?
Okay.
All right, Munis upgrade. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution carries 6-0.
Resolution 16, whereas Employee Services, Inc., ESI, Employee Assistance Group, which provides employee assistance services, EAP, to the town of Poughkeepsie, now therefore be it resolved that the town board, pursuant to town Poughkeepsie procurement policy, Articles 3, B, and C, does hereby authorize the supervisor to execute a contract for professional employee services, assistance services in substantially the form annexed. The execution of said contract being a type 2 action requiring no secret review. So moved.
Second.
Okay, this is our ongoing employee assistant program. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the resolution carries 6-0.
All right, 17, whereas the Hudson River Drinking Water Intermunicipal Council, otherwise known as the Hudson 7, represents 7 municipalities that draw drinking water from the Hudson River and protects the collective drinking water supply that serves over 100,000 people throughout planning, advocacy, and action. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint representatives Councilwoman Ann Shershin as the town's delegate and Councilman Ryan Sharp as the town's alternate in this vital partnership of municipalities. So moved.
Second. Okay, I want to thank Ann and Ryan for being willing to serve on this. It's an important monthly meeting and there've been some very lively discussions, and Hudson 7 has had a great role in protecting the river, so. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the resolution carries 6-0.
Number 18 is to authorize the controller and legal department to release and return the performance and payment security submitted by Cleaning Services of Hudson Valley Incorporated, the holder of the police court facility cleaning contract as provided to the town by separate check of $19,110. So moved.
Second.
Okay. We determined that we should return the security, so this resolution does it. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The resolution carries 6-0.
Resolution 19, this is authorizing submission of an application to the Dutchess County Transportation Council to have Spackenkill Road Sidewalk Project included in the 2026 to 2030 Transportation Improvement Program. The town of Poughkeepsie seeks to implement traffic calming measures and pedestrian safety improvements within the corridor of Spackenkill Road, Route 113 from Croft Road to just west of Cedar Avenue. The Dutchess County Transportation Council's Transportation Improvement Program serves as the DCTC's capital plan for federal transportation dollars over the next 5 years. The town of Poughkeepsie has opted to submit an application to the DCTC requesting inclusion of the Spackenkill Road Sidewalk Project as proposed in the 2023 Spackenkill Road Sidewalk Feasibility Study on the 2026 to 2030 tip. The total estimated project cost for the Spackenkill Road Sidewalk Project is $7.5 million, and the town will request $5.5 million in federal funds and provide $2 million in local matching funds. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie hereby authorizes the supervisor or her designee to submit this application to the DCTC and agrees to provide the $2 million local match should the project be funded. So moved.
Second.
Okay, this is, we did this a year ago, if anybody's feeling like it's Groundhog Day. We actually did this exact same application to a different potential funding source, and we didn't get it. So I want to thank Mike Welty, who has researched the possibilities, and we're trying again with this DCTC grant in hopes of being able to bring the sidewalk project forward. So, again, we are agreeing to provide a match if this is granted, but it's 20% of the total project cost. Okay, all those, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, any opposed? All right, the resolution carries 6-0. I believe it's me, right?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Whereas the town of Poughkeepsie Board recognizes the need to appoint a qualified individual to the position of Building Inspector 2, and whereas Bruce Flower has been identified as a suitable candidate for this position, now therefore be it resolved by the town board as follows, that we are offer the position to Bruce Flower as a competitive full-time salaried exempt position effective February the 10th, 2025, with a starting salary of $113,000. And with the benefits package as outlined in an offer letter that the board has received, and and any benefits not specified in that offer letter governed by the provisions of the employee handbook. And the town supervisor and human resources department are hereby authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate the hiring of Bruce Flower. And this resolution has been duly considered and approved on 22nd January. So moved.
Second.
Okay. All right, I want to thank all those board members who participated in hiring interviews and were able to meet with some really qualified folks, and have some really great far-ranging conversations, which resulted in this.
I was really happy when I saw this resolution. I like Bruce.
He's
It's
someone
nice-
who worked for the town
Yeah,
before,
nice
so
to
it's
see
always
him come
wonderful
back.
when someone can bring back their experience and knowledge. He's been working in Beacon. I confess that right after we did this, I got a call from the mayor of Beacon saying, "Oh no." And we had a long conversation, but he's been great in Beacon, and Beacon's gonna really miss him and is sorry to lose him.
The only
but
reason
had
he
back.
left us was for promotion, so
Yeah.
we're getting him back at the same title, so.
Yeah,
Well, the type of caliber person he is, he wouldn't leave there until he gave them some time
Yeah.
and additional
Right.
time, so.
that's right.
He's a
So
great person.
that's exactly right. He's trying to make sure he leaves them in good shape.
I was
so.
worried when Tim was leaving, and then I said, huh, yay,
So we just have to get to February 10th, right?
yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the resolution carries 6-0.
Okay,
Look
21.
forward to welcoming Bruce.
Welcome. Be it resolved, the town board of town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with regret the resignation of Kristen Mastro Marino, senior clerk with the town of Poughkeepsie Building Department, effective January 31st, 2025. So moved.
Second?
Okay, and this is one of those that's really a two-part resolution, and the second one's happy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution carries 6-0.
22, the town board does hereby appoint Kristen Mastro Marino to the position of Deputy Zoning Administrator with the Zoning Department at grade 9, step 1, salary of $32.3199 per hour, effective February 3rd. There's a probationary period as described by the rules for the classified civil service of Dutchess County, and the town supervisor is authorized to execute and file all documentation required by Dutchess County in connection with this appointment. So moved.
Second.
Okay, this is a position we created because we agreed it as a board in the budget that we wanted to strengthen our zoning enforcement. And so I'm delighted that Kristen, who already works with the town, was on the list, and she's, I think, excited for this position. And it gives Chrissy extra help with a second zoning enforcement officer who can get out there and write tickets as needed and chase down people who aren't registering their short-term rentals and all this kind of things, so. And I think Kristen's gonna be great, so.
Yeah,
good,
she's-
good.
Yep,
Another good resolution.
that's right. Okay, and we've already put them in touch with our new town prosecutors, so hopefully we'll get some action here. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries 6-0.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve and adopt the amended non-union salary schedule for the year 2025, a copy of which is attached hereto and incorporated herein. So moved.
Second?
Okay, and this is redlined. You can see we're adding 2 part-time people who we had not had before on the list. With the raise, the 2% raise that we offered new non-union employees across the board, so. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries 6-0.
24 is a notice of claim referred to legal, Gathers versus Town, Lafayette versus Town, and Porter versus Town. So moved.
Second.
Okay,
They've been referred to legal? And
Yep.
25, I have just two things. I have Mayor's College on January 29th from 4 to 7. They are having a celebration, their Mayor's University Day. They're going from Mayor's College to Mayor's University. So they're having a couple food trucks in the McCann Center, so they got an event permit from me for that. And then I have a liquor license notification for Lola's, is gonna be in Eastdale. And that is it.
Okay, it's great. I have one additional announcement, which I think I can just make as an announcement or just share with the board. It comes out of the Police and Courts Building Committee. As we authorized a feasibility study of whether the town police might be able to move into town hall. We've been interviewing potential architects, engineering firms, and the committee unanimously recommends Labella to do the work. We met with Labella yesterday. I had a long talk with them again today, which was really quite interesting. It's amazing to watch a really experienced engineer kind of start looking at a site like this one and go, okay, well, there's rock here and there's level changes there, and how would we solve these problems? How would we do this? And so at the next meeting on the 5th, I will be bringing that as a contract for approval. So if anybody would like to look at Labella's presentation, I have actually some printed copies in my office. I can give you one tonight. We can get it on for the February 5th meeting so people can see what they propose to do. We hope to have some very preliminary answers by April as to whether or not it would be feasible to have the town police move into town hall. We have some questions to answer in the meantime, like where everybody else would go. But we can start thinking about that a little bit as well. And we're prepared for a yes answer or a no answer, but we'll get, I think, a really good answer from Labella. So we'll just giving everybody a heads up that we're bringing that on February 5th and invite people to think about that in advance a little bit. Okay, I think at that point, okay, I found it, good. That we should do any additional public comment now before we go into executive session. So I move that we suspend the rules for anyone who may wish to address the board on any matter for up to 3 minutes, not necessarily on the agenda tonight, but any issue you might want to bring before the board. So moved. Second. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any
Doreen?
opposed? 6-0. Okay, Doreen?
Thank you. I have a question on the deputy zoning administrator. Will that be a full-time job?
It is a full-time position. We had
What?
a half-time clerk position in that department that we're moving out of that department. So the department as a whole is gaining a half a position and that other person's moving elsewhere. But what we really need, everyone agrees, is someone who's another enforcement officer who can write the tickets and can, who has the qualifications to be a zoning enforcement officer. So it's a full-time position.
Okay, well, I think that's a good move because Chrissy does a great job, but the town is expanding, and I definitely think they need more help because I've been saying it all along, enforcement is lacking. And, as far as the short-term rentals, this law was voted on by the previous board in May of 2023. It was to go into effect 6 months later, which would have been November of 2023. And here we are in January of 2025. And I'll bet there are more, I don't have the latest number, but I'll bet there are more illegal short-term rentals in the town than legal ones. So I think that's a big problem. And with some other areas of enforcement in question, I think this is a position that's been needed for a long time.
Great, thank you. We do have that list, I think, and I think we did a count. But as I say, some of the short-term rentals are no longer renting and saying they're switching to long-term rentals. But thank you. Anybody else who wants to speak? Okay, welcome.
Hello, my name is Daniel Atona. I am the political coordinator at For the Many. I live in the city of Poughkeepsie. I live literally across the street from the town, so We're neighbors, sort of. And I was here today to answer any questions you may have had about good cause eviction, but no one indicated they had questions, but I will be back in case there are questions later. But I also brought some stuff that I would like to turn over to whoever it is appropriate to hand this to.
Great, thank you. The clerk can make sure we all have copies of that and that it's added to the public record.
Great, thanks so much. So what is in there is a printout of the page on the Housing Justice for All website. So Housing Justice for All is this statewide housing coalition that helped push for good cause eviction and fought for it for years and years, and eventually it made its way into the state budget, although it had substantial edits before it made it to the state budget. I promise you that the real estate industry, the landlords, the developers, the Real Estate Board of New York, REBNY, they definitely had their say, and you can see in the difference between what was originally proposed and what ended up making its way, passing through the state budget, had a lot of, things that were edited to make it a little more friendly to the real estate industry. But I still think it is a valuable amount of tenant protections if it does pass. And, just to address something, it has been passed in cities, you could call them big cities like Albany and Newburgh, but it's also been passed in 4 villages around the state: the village of Catskill, Croton-on-Hudson, New Paltz, Nyack, and then the town of Fishkill, of course, passed it as well, and that was, interestingly, on a bipartisan basis, which was very exciting to see. Just to address some of the things about good cause eviction, so it would protect tenants if they are paying their rent and following their lease. They would not have to fear retaliation for demanding repairs. And it would guarantee lease renewals, again, if they are paying their rent and following their lease. And they would be able to challenge rent hikes if those were more than 10% or CPI plus 5%. And there's also a bunch of exceptions into the law, so it doesn't cover every single rental unit. And again, these exceptions were the result of, the real estate industry and lobbying. So good cause cannot apply, it just can't apply to buildings that were built after 2009. No matter what you do, you just can't make it apply to that. The state won't let you. And it only applies if the landlord owns more than one unit around New York State, and if they live in the building, if it's owner occupied with less than 11 units, then good cause just can't apply. There's nothing you can do to make it apply to those owner occupied with less than 11 units. The state just didn't want to allow that. So again, so it owns more than one rental unit in New York State, and then you have the power to set the fair market rent threshold. So some municipalities set a fair market rent 345% so that it wouldn't apply to apartments where they were paying 345% or higher of fair market rent, because Albany didn't want this good cause to apply to luxury apartments where people are paying very high rent. They only wanted to pay it to apply to like below a certain threshold. The threshold you decide. And again, it can't apply to units built after 2009, and it can't apply to things that are rented from a co-op or condo, part of an employment agreement, manufactured home, or if they're already subsidized or public housing. Good cause just will not apply to those units. Under good cause, there's still a lot of reasons you could evict someone, and you have the ability to do that if you're a landlord. So some of those reasons are non-payment of rent. That is a good cause to evict under the law. Lease violations and nuisance activity. The landlord personal use or removal from the market. So say the landlord wanted to move into the unit or just take the unit off the market completely. Then you could evict the tenant under good cause. Demolition. And then failure to sign lease renewal or provide access to apartment. And so that's all spelled out in the law, and you can't change that. That's just the state said that even if you adopt good cause, you can't alter those things. But again,
we're at 4 minutes. Just let you.
Sorry.
take a few more sentences. to
Sure.
wrap
So
up,
I'm so
okay?
happy to, I'm so, excited that the town of Poughkeepsie is taking a look at this. I also included a study there that showed that New Jersey has had good cause eviction for decades, but has actually built more housing than New York State over that period of time. So we don't believe this will affect housing supply, especially since it doesn't apply to new buildings, only buildings built before 2009. But if you have further questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is daniel@forthemany.org, or you can text or call me anytime, 845-321-2663. I don't really have a life, so you can text or call me anytime, and I will answer your
Can you
questions.
give us that number one more time?
I just have,
Can you give us that number one more time?
Sure, 845-321-2663.
I don't want to prolong, may I ask you one question?
Yeah, sure.
And I will call you.
Of course.
So is it before or after 2009?
Before, it only applies to buildings built before.
Not after.
Not
Right.
after.
You might have said after.
Right, yeah.
Okay, it's before.
And Daniel, what was your last name? I'm sorry.
Atona, Atonna.
And do you have any reason, or do you have an understanding of the basis of the law where they came up with the fact that there's a year associated with a building?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the real estate industry didn't want it to apply to newer buildings because they were concerned that it would affect the housing supply, housing construction. And so that's why good cause can only apply to buildings that were built before a certain date. Yes.
Personally, I would love to see some data on how this has worked in New Jersey, since it's been working there for a really long time. I think that could be super helpful to us.
Sure, I can try to get that. And I'll also add, in the city of Kingston, we saw successful, good cause is mostly a court defense. It's something that a tenant can evoke in court to say, this eviction does not follow these things that are outlined in the law, therefore can you not evict, the judge will not allow the eviction. We saw a successful case in Kingston that I can send to you where a tenant was able to defend themselves from eviction. But actually, even more than court cases, we've been hearing a lot of stories of tenants, in the city of Poughkeepsie and town of Fishkill, where it didn't even have to go to court, because the tenant and the landlord were able to have a conversation and work something out that was legal, that was a rent increase that was still legal, and the tenant was able to stay in their unit, even with the smaller rent increase, and the landlord, and it didn't have to go to court, it didn't have to clog up the courts that way.
Just one final question.
Sure.
I don't want to prolong. I thought I heard you say that if the landlord owns more than one building, this would apply, good cause, right? Is that what I?
So if the landlord owns more than one unit anywhere in New York State, it would apply unless it falls under some of the other exemptions. Like, say they owned less than 10 units, but they live in the building, then it wouldn't apply because they live in the building.
So we'll have to court, because I think in the documents we had before, it said 10 units.
Isn't that
10-unit
something-
building.
I thought that was something that the town could set, the number of
Right,
units.
so the town could set the limit, but the general is 10,
Yes.
right? Is one.
The
Okay.
state sets some parameters. There's some things we can and can't do, but within that state framework, we can tinker.
That is correct. You could choose to raise the unit threshold, although there has not been a single municipality that has done that yet, that has passed good cause for reasons, basically it makes it easier for the law for landlords to get around the law, for there to be some kind of LLC loophole where the landlords disguise how many units they truly own by creating a bunch of LLCs. And then tenants, because we don't have a public LLC database, tenants have no way of knowing if they're covered by the law, which means they can't invoke their rights, which means it's kind of like you didn't, yeah.
So I was just talking about that with the housing committee too. New York just passed a law for LLC transparency, and wondering what's going on with that.
So the
That
governor-
also would be very interesting
Yeah.
to know what's going on with that.
I know that the
So-
governor vetoed having a public database for LLCs.
You have
Oh,
to,
I
you
got
can foil
vetoed.
this state.
You can foil, okay.
Interesting. Okay, that's helpful to know. Because again, you come up against the LLCs and you don't know how many are owned by the same person, and it makes it a challenge.
Yeah, so
Okay, thank you very much.
oh, yes, thank you.
Okay, great.
Have a good night.
Well, we will be talking about this more. I think we agreed at the workshop meeting, which will be on the, The 12th, February 12th. So, we won't take a vote at that meeting, but we're gonna be having open discussion and welcome public comment.
All right, see you soon.
Thank you. Okay, so then I would say, I think I need to, move to return to regular session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries 6-0. Okay, then be it resolved that the town board adjourns to executive session to consider the employment history of 3 particular people, okay? I think we have to pass the resolution. Be it further resolved that no action appropriating money will be taken during executive session, so moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, resolution carries. Thank you all very much.